All right, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. 2021. Just about a year ago to the date, I was sitting at this location and wishing everyone a Happy New Year for 2020 and kind of defining 2020, perfect vision, hitting things on the mark. The other day, I was on a Facebook page for a college friend, Bob Walkoff. He's up in North Jersey. He's a rabbi, and he was quoting one of his sermons. And in the sermon, he said, "You need both eyes for perfect vision." Well, that kind of sums it up, because I think 2020 was a year where we only had one eye open. And a lot of bad things. Definitely not perfection. So here it is, 2021, day number one, and let's hope we have both eyes working here. I pretty much summed up 2020 in a commentary that was just published in DVM Magazine, the December issue. You probably can find it online. And it refers to veterinary medicine, but not 100%. So if you have time, look it up, DVM Magazine. And of course, one of the highlights or lowlights of the year was the election. And I love quotes, and two of them that come to mind during the election cycle was one that said, one of the candidates had a casual relationship with the truth. I think that's a priceless one. And the other one said that one of the candidates needs to pour a cup of shut up. Now that'll stick in your mind for a while. I think the main takeaway that I had from the election, among others, was the great divide we have in this country between rural and urban. It seems like there is a huge kind of schism formed here, and this is not my idea. I think I've heard this discussed endlessly, but we have two houses in pretty isolated rural areas, the Poconos and here in New Hampshire, and during the election cycle you would drive around and just one Trump sign after another. Hundreds, thousands, and not just signs, but flags and tractor trailers that had been pulled over and painted on and things for Trump. If you lived in these rural areas, I could see where you would think, how could the guy ever lose? It's like 90% for Trump. But I think what these folks don't see is the number of urban dwellers that are in this country. Living in New Jersey, you fly in on an airplane over Philadelphia. Honestly, 1 square mile of Philadelphia is probably equal to a county in some of these areas. And of course there are a lot of mail-in ballots in the urban areas. I for 10 years I've voted in New Jersey with a mail-in ballot. I think that's one of the problems that we're faced with, is one side doesn't realize how many people are there on the other side. By the way, that's enough of that, but by the way, during election week, we were in Yosemite, and I proceeded to take a walk one afternoon, and before I knew it, I was lost. I was in campgrounds that were closed, roads that were closed, and it was scary. It was really scary. I thought eventually I would use my GPS to get back to the hotel, the Ahwahnee, which is a beautiful hotel. GPS doesn't work too well in the woods. The reason being is it wanted me to cross a river. Now, that wasn't going to work. So I think, GPS maps is pretty good for the city, but I don't think it works too well. Eventually, I did find our way back, and to top off a little excitement for that trip, the day we left, it was like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. It had snowed and iced, and the only road open to get out of Yosemite, because of construction mostly, was a road that went up to Half Dome, which is about 5,000 or 6,000 feet up. and it was pure ice, and we didn't have four-wheel drive, and we just kept going up, 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 and no one had treated the roads, no salt or sand or anything, and we were lucky to get out of there. It was a little scary, but talking about bad things, one Saturday here in October in New Hampshire, bad things come in threes. Well, during the course of one afternoon, a huge wind came up and sank our boat. It was just a rowboat with a motor, but boom, boat went right down to the bottom. You could look in the water, and there was the boat with the motor resting on the bottom. It was actually humorous. I was able to hook a come along on it just by reaching down on the dock, and we actually, as I cranked it to shore, I wrapped the come along around a tree. Our rowboat had become a submarine. You could see it moving along the bottom as it came to shore. It was somewhat humorous to watch this. About 10 minutes after all that, I lost my footing and actually fell in the lake. I had these waders on and I couldn't walk with them very well. And then later that evening, number 3, my bank informed me online that someone had gotten into my online checking, and they were closing all 4 bank accounts, one of which was the business, and I would have to open 4 new ones. And it literally took 3 weeks or so, about 50 hours. Would you believe, about 50 hours of work? I mean, the business account had credit cards coming in all day long, care credit, my payroll is all done through the checking accounts, taxes, deductions, oh my Lord, my health insurance, everything, everyone. It was a disaster. The most depressing thing was when I was opening the brand new animal hospital account, and I was just closing the account here, opening a new one here. They wanted my corporate documents for the business. Now, you got the account right here. We're closing it. You're opening the new one, and you want me to go to the lawyer and find my corporate documents. Okay, it's a good thing I have understanding to some degree. On a lighter note, one day during the summer, we were getting ready to take a trip to Ithaca, and I put all the dogs in the kennel and took my daily walk before we got in the car. I walk around soccer fields across the street, and one of the soccer nets was moving all on its own. A little unusual. Now, if I had had the dogs with me, this is truly a miracle. If I had had the dogs with me, I could not have done anything. But the fact of the matter was, this is one of those rare days during the year when the dogs were not with me, and there was a fawn wrapped in this soccer net since the day before, because I do this every day, and it wasn't there the day before. And I was a little somewhat cautious because I've worked on deer before and they're pretty unpredictable. I walked up to it. It was flat out. I thought maybe it just was exhausted. The thing came to life. Its hooves were flying all around my face, cut my wrist, and then it sort of passed out again. I had 30 seconds or so, and I actually was able to unwrap all the netting from around its ear and its neck and its joints. And I expected a Disney ending here where it gets up and looks at me and says thank you and walks away. No, none of that happened. It ran into the woods at 500 miles an hour, never to be seen again. But that was truly a kind of a miracle story. And there must have been a wasp hanging around this deer. I don't know how to explain it, but it was on my neck. When the whole thing was done, I felt something on my neck. Gigantic wasp that just had landed on me. That was a little unusual. So the expression, better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Well, one night a couple weeks ago, one of the lights in our driveway in Jersey blew out. it was pitch black, and I decided I would fix it, just screw in a new bulb. And of course, being Mark, I didn't turn the lights off or the electricity or get a flashlight, because I was all the way at the end of the driveway and it would have been a couple minutes to walk back to the house. So next thing I know, I couldn't unscrew the bulb. The whole thing shatters in my hand. I'm bleeding all over. And I finally was able to unloosen, to unloosen the bulb, and I had this screwdriver, and yeah, you can see where this is headed. Boom, I shocked the heck out of myself. So that was a delightful 20 minutes or so, which brings me to my visit to the University of Pennsylvania. My ears, which are not so good to begin with, they were plugged one day for like 2 weeks. So I went to Penn, and I couldn't see the doctor, but you can see the nurse, the doctor's assistant, or whatever they call that. And she came in, and she introduced herself. My name is Twinkle. Twinkle. Now that's a new one. My name is Twinkle. And Twinkle had an assistant, and for about 25 minutes they looked in my ears and everything, couldn't find anything wrong. Basically, they told me to go home and pinch my nose and blow kind of backwards, and maybe that would kind of get things working again. I got a bill for $400. That was interesting. And then the story of the toad in our patio. Mindy and I, every time we went to the kitchen window one day during the summer, there was this huge toad on our patio. And it wasn't moving. It just we checked it for hours we were in the kitchen for this or that, and the toad never moved. And eventually, end of the day or so, I went outside, and it wasn't a toad. It was a pile of poop, dog poop. So I don't know. It looked like a toad to me. Whatever. Yeah, I've had some senior moments this year. At work, we're often not using the phone at work because everyone would be using the same phone. So we've been using our own phones to make calls and stuff. One night last week, I found myself trying to make a phone call on a calculator. I don't know how I did this. The little calculator. Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay. And then we have a new disease in the house. It's called bipolar beagle. And the definition of bipolar beagle is two people in the kitchen eating something, but they're kind of separated, and there's a beagle in the middle, and the beagle just can't decide which way to go. So that's the bipolar beagle. And speaking of COVID, what's up with the pajamas in public? I thought it was just a temporary thing, but I think this has become a fixture of society, wearing your pajamas in public. And how about driving around with the face mask? I mean, they're by themselves. The face mask is on and you're driving your car. I'm not sure what that's about. And mattresses. Is there like a mattress boom going on? I mean, I read a story in the New York Times or the New Yorker. There's a mattress called the Hostens Grand Vividus. I think that's its name. $400,000 for a mattress. And don't confuse it with the cheaper plain old Vividus, which is only $200,000. If I spent that much on a mattress, I'd have trouble sleeping at night. I don't know about you. Which brings me to the septic guy here in New Hampshire. This guy is a riot. He always comes with priceless information. And he was here on our last visit in November. And he was talking about how, in New Hampshire, the big thing is the township meeting, and everything gets voted on at this meeting, the budgets and all that, the road improvements, He said his dad had a perfect solution. Anytime there's a vote at the township, vote no. So take that. That's the rule. Anytime there's a vote at the township, just vote no. Priceless. Did you ever notice how veterinary medicine has these great diseases? They're priceless. I mean, some of them go all the way back to vet school, but it occurred to me not too long ago that these would be great names for kids. You know, the names these days for kids are a little bizarre, but I think I'm onto something here. Like take example, Pseudomonas. You know, like Pseudomonas, did you eat your veggies? Or how about aspergillosis? Aspergillosis, did you take out the trash? And then psittacosis. Psittacosis, it's time for bed. Or, you know, if you have twins, this would be good. Coccidiosis and coccidioides. I mean, perfect. Has anyone else kind of thought about this? I love quotes. I have some of my own. Here's one. Trying is everything. And the scariest thing about the unknown is the unknown. You can copy these down if you want. And I've got one for the new vaccines coming out for COVID. From farm to arm. Pharmacy, you know, from farm to arm. Which reminds me, I posted a photo on Facebook this week. I found some vaccine on the internet, so check out the photo. And I can't leave without quoting Dolly Parton, who I love. She was on that country music Ken Burns thing. She has one of her most famous quotes is, "It costs a lot to look this cheap." I think that's priceless. All right, global warming. One of my favorite subjects. Not really. I read somewhere that 8% of CO2 production comes from producing concrete. Wow, 8%. And here, electric cars. I mean, they're coming. We're all going to be having them someday. The key to the electric car, of course, is the battery. Everyone's racing to find the best battery, produce one, invent one. You know, you need a battery to go long distance and quick charge. But in reality, I read this article recently, in reality, you just need a battery that goes 200 miles because that's when your bladder takes control and you pull over, charge the battery, take care of the bladder, 200 miles. That's all you need. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. One of my favorite commentators is a fella named Mark Shields. PBS. He writes for the Washington Post, and he just retired from the PBS NewsHour last week. And they gave him like 25 minutes of the show. And he said a lot of things because that's what he does. And I copied down some of his quotes, and they are something to think about. They gave him the microphone, and one of the things he said was, "Tell me with whom you walk, and I will tell you who you are." I think there's a lot to that. And we have all been warmed by fires we did not build, and we all have drunk from wells we did not dig. How true. And he quoted FDR, "The measure of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, but whether we provide enough to those who have too little." Deep. Anyhow, it's getting cold out here. I wish you all a great year of vision with both eyes open, a year where truth prevails, and a year of abundant generosity. God bless you all.